ho, hello everyone, humbug. It's funny, I kind of started this episode like Max starts episodes. Look at that. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cup Duet Reviews. My name is Jillian Robinson. I am the Associate Artistic Producer here at Cup of Hemlock Theatre. Today I'm joined by one of the Golden Trio members. I don't know if we've ever said that we call ourselves that.
We use that term. We do use that term flippantly on the air. I don't know if we've ever actually explained it. It's pretty self-explanatory,
All right,
I feel.
Well, a vertice of the Golden Trio, Ryan Borochovitz, one of our artistic producers, is joining me today.
Hey, that's me.
Hello. We are donned in Christmas-esque crew necks today. We are talking about another wonderful Christmas show that is happening here in Toronto. Ryan and I are going to be talking about Invasion Christmas Carol, Toronto's new holiday comedy tradition. This is a production produced by Knifefight Theatre, presented in association with One for One Collective and the Assembly Theatre. The script is adapted from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol by Megan Leahy, The Invasion Concept by Travis Sharp, originally developed by Dad's Garage Theatre, and the director is Jamie Kavanagh. And the cast is a small but absolutely mighty troupe of improvisers that you definitely have seen treading some boards in the city. This show, due to the invasion concept, has a guest appearance, sort of like an insert clown here vibe, where this person comes in and shakes up the traditional tale, and you don't really know what you're going to get. So before we kick everything off, those of you who have tuned into our episodes before, usually we do a little synopsis, a general appraisal, a spiel, and then we go into spoiler zone. Ryan and I decided we're not going to do that today because this is a type of show that you're never going to see the same one twice. There's obviously probably the same setup that the actors have created, like a blueprint of the tale, but you're never going to see. If you see this same installment, I'm going to be shocked.
And also that setup, the parts that will be consistent across performances, is like the most famous Christmas story ever told. So like it's impossible to spoil anything. Either it's too variable or too well known. So alas, I was hoping maybe we would have like a creepy doll spoiler icon, as we often do with our icons, but no. Doesn't seem fitting for this one.
Before we dive in, let's keep with some sort of tradition over here at the cup. So, Ryan, what is in your cup today? What are you sipping on?
At the moment, I'm just sipping on water. We're recording this fairly early in the morning after having seen the show. I did just finish my morning coffee and felt like, oh man, I should have saved that for the episode. So I just put some water in a mug. I was going to use my classic The Cup, but I decided instead to use my Sad Ibsen Theater mug, which, for those who don't know, this was the short-lived indie company that I founded when I was in undergrad, with Henrik Ibsen as our logo with a single teardrop. And I chose this because with his big bushy mutton chops, he kind of seems like someone who would do a good job playing Scrooge. So...
Nice. I was like, we're going to get to some sort of why this cup. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, I think Ibsen would have made a great Scrooge back in the day. And I think Scrooge and Jamie, for that matter, would make a great Ibsen in some sort of biodrama of the man's life. He's proven that in this performance.
Okay, let's collapse those things together.
How about you? What's in your cup?
It's a Doll's House Christmas Carol. Okay, I have 2 cups going today. One is I had a little bit of leftover candy apple coffee the other day. It's Joffrey's coffee. So if anyone's been to like Disney World or like you can get like the Disney bag. So I think this is like the Snow White candy apple one. And it's just in the king cup because it's red and white.
Sure.
Like the holidays.
It's like, it looks like a candy cane, like the kind we saw a lot of in this show. So when you said Joffrey's coffee, I assumed like the Game of Thrones character. No relation, I assume? No, it's not a petulant child king. It's coffee. No,
but look at that. Wow.
Hey, there you go.
And then I've got Hydration Station, but in a holiday-esque cup. We've got like a red pink and a green straw and a green sticker. I'm so like quirky on this episode today. Okay. And then inside is like this like gut building powder. I sometimes have it in the mornings. It's like acai and pomegranate flavor. It's just kind of to get the normal gut juices feeling better as we start the day. And my ensemble, I guess I'll say I'm wearing All I Want for Christmas is Steve Harrington. This is a sweater I got way back in like the beginning of Stranger Things. I am not caught up. I think the last I've seen is season finale of season 3, but I know currently as we're recording this, everyone is going wild over the recent season drop. So
Season
I thought
5.
we'd bring Steve into this festivities.
You don't even know what happened to Steve.
Oh no!
I don't know. I'm also
no spoilers.
I'm kidding. I haven't watched anything since season 3. I kind of thought the show really went downhill, so I'm always kind of baffled when people get excited about new seasons of it.
Slower for me in season 3. So, anyways, that's Stranger Things. And then I've got Santa Claus earrings.
Oh,
Nicholas Claus comes up many a time.
Nicholas Fezziwig Claus, one might say. No spoiler shield here. We can talk about whatever.
So I'm really holiday-y. And then you've got your like evergreen holiday-esque pattern for neck too.
This is the most Christmassy thing I own.
But we're here and we are ready to invade Christmas Carol. Okay, so I kind of already set up the blueprint of how the show goes. But Ryan, do you want to kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive of what folks will get to see?
Okay.
Oh, I should also say, sorry, this is, like I said, it's happening at the Assembly Theatre. And at time of recording and release, you have a couple remaining days to see. It plays until December 14th. But like Jamie says at the end of the show, it's saying that Toronto's new holiday comedy tradition. So hopefully this bad boy comes back every holiday, because I laughed so hard. I cackled, one might say, louder than the demonic baby spoke. So we'll talk about that. Back to you, Ryan. Set us up a little bit more of an in-depth plotline or story.
Jacob Marley is dead. That much. Okay. So no. How do you even bother?
The children are running through the streets. Jacob Marley's dead. No,
okay, listen. It's a Christmas Carol. The main kind of thrust of this is that 6 of Toronto's best improviser comedians have rehearsed an honest-to-goodness, very faithful adaptation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And yet, there is an invader, someone else from Toronto's comedy scene, who has devised a character that the rest of the team has not heard about, has not rehearsed with, doesn't know what they're getting into. And that character shows up at various times to make them react to whatever that presence brings. Now, I will say, the first 2 performances of this, which we did not see, I believe we saw performance number 4 in the sequence, but the first 2 had advertised specific high-profile guests. Colin Mockery was the opening act for the very first night of this show. And then we had Andrew Fung from Kim's Convenience on TV, and people have seen him if you follow Toronto's comedy scene and the Canadian comedy writ large. He was in the second one. And because they're doing a great job documenting this variable process on social media, I've gotten tastes of what the previous iterations have. So Colin Mockery, I read, and apologies because I haven't seen these particular performances, so if I'm getting any of the details wrong, I hope posterity will forgive me here. But Colin Mockery's character was a bizarro version of Scrooge from another dimension, who comes to try to convince him to not change the errors of his ways or something to that effect. So that's really fun. Andrew Fung showed up as Shredder, the villain from the Ninja Turtles, and did whatever Shredder does, I guess. I read another one, I forget who the comedian was in this one, but it was like some kind of DJ, like a nightclub DJ was just what the invader character was, who just made Scrooge and company drop sick beats throughout the show. And the one we got to see in performance number 4 was the amazing, the astonishing, the brilliant, the hilarious Lisa Merchant.
Oh my god, we love Lisa!
And the character that she graced us with for this invasion was Bunny, better known to us as Mrs. Claus. Mrs. Bunny Claus, the actual wife of Santa Claus, is our invader. So at the outset of the show, she shows up. It's kind of interesting to make the guest sort of serve as the MC in this way, because we get the opening monologue outlining the premise from the guests themselves in character. And she shows up in a very kind of like Mrs. Doubtfire, heightened Scottish accent kind of way, introducing herself as Mrs. Claus, but you can call her Bunny. And she is carrying a basket that we don't get to see.
but you can call me Bunny.
Yes. Great gravy. So, yes, Scottish Mrs. Claus.
But it's funny because, like, the Scottish was there, but it wasn't always as thick as some of the phrases. So, like, oh my god.
I don't know. I thought she was pretty consistent with the accent. I thought she did.
No, but she would, like, milk it sometimes. She'd be like, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No, she's so funny.
I love Lisa Merchant.
You've reviewed her on the Cup fairly recently.
Yes, the Role Players show that Rachel Fisher and I reviewed earlier on in this year, I think.
Yeah, just this past summer.
Wow,
it's been going on all year. You caught it in the middle of its run. Correct. As part of that sequence.
Lisa was playing one of the guest comedians that kind of came on to that show as well. They had like a handful of them each night. So
and that was a D&D improv show specifically,
yes,
right? Yes,
exactly. So it's been really funny to just like as like a treat to see Lisa up on the stage, like not even just kind of be shocked and like, oh my gosh, I'm being entertained by Lisa tonight. And like she's just so good, man. Like her timing, her like egg on my face sort of like awkward insert of like random statements, and you can just tell, again, we'll go back to the storyline in a second, but just briefly a little intermission on Lisa. You can tell like all of these performers have either worked with her or like they know her vibe, so
they admire her.
Yeah, so like she was, I don't want to say she was like trying to corpse them, but you could tell there was this like there was this subtext of like, I'm Lisa Merchant and like, you know me, I'm gonna get you. Like her and Paloma had a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I think she was trying to corpse them. I feel like the whole point of the show is all of them trying to corpse each other. She did
bring a zombie corpse baby as
there
her
we go.
Side plot.
Elegant segue. Yeah, back into the plot description. Also, it's just, I must be clear in case this wasn't clear already. This plot description is entirely unique to the individual performance we saw. That's never happening again. That's why we feel like no need to spoil or put a spoiler shield on here, because yeah, you will never see this. It's kind of, how much is it even worth us getting into the specifics? Is it just because we're having a fun time describing what we saw? Is this promotional at all for you? We'll see a completely different version. I don't know, but it's fun.
I mean, we'll talk about like the production elements of like the sort of piece itself, but yeah.
Okay, but for the sake of talking about the very specific version we saw, so she shows up in an early scene with the basket, and I don't even know if this was actually the plan, come to think of it, because of just how amazing the improv is here. But Jamie, playing Scrooge, he's also the director of this production. I don't know if that was stated at the beginning, but that's just amazing double duty he's doing here, playing the lead character and directing, like, you know, an 18th century theater actor manager. He said something very early on, a response to what wasn't even really like a prompt from Lisa. And I wonder if he hadn't said this, would the plot have gone in the same direction? But it's when she came into Scrooge and Marley's business establishment, he turned to her and said, "Bunny." And that kind of implied that there is the history between these characters.
Right.
And he didn't have to say that necessarily. Just thinking about the way this improv worked, he could have been like, who are you? What brings you to my establishment? Like, I just think that kind of thing is what I love so much about a show like this. It's such a testament to like the skill of these improvisers, their understanding of dramatic structure, their understanding of what the most interesting choice you could possibly make in any given moment is, their openness to the random chaos of possibilities.
Yeah.
Is that whether this was maybe something they discussed backstage or just something that Jamie decided in the moment, but okay, there is a history, possibly romantic history, between Mrs. Claus and Ebenezer Scrooge. Yeah. And that's what they rolled with. Now, she already had the baby in the basket, so something was going to go in that direction. But if he had said, like, "Who are you? I've never seen you before in my life," we would have had to yes and whatever that outcome would be. It would be a lot harder to get back on track with, "This is your grandchild," and that's where we're going here. So there has been a torrid love affair in the past between a young Ebenezer Scrooge, who was once very sexually active, and Mrs. Claus. And we find out as the plot goes on is that they met in Santa's workshop in the flashbacks of Ghosts of Christmas Past, those scenes that usually take place in Fezziwig's business establishment. They determined kind of, it seemed on the fly that Fezziwig is also Santa Claus, and
Yes.
which was amazing. And Jamie, again, so funny. After they finish that flashback sequence, he says to the Ghost of Christmas Past, "I had forgotten that Fezziwig was Santa Claus," because they
Yeah.
clearly didn't set up the scene with that. Like, that was decided in the scene.
Yeah.
So, like, when they have previous lines about Fezziwig that don't draw the obvious connection between him and Santa
Yeah.
Claus, that's just like such hilarious wink wink nudge to the audience
Yeah.
backpedaling. That's just like so good. So yeah, so there was a torrid love affair between Mrs. Claus, Bunny, and young Scrooge, and they had a relationship in Cabo that comes up a lot. And it yielded a child that Scrooge never knew about.
Her
And
name's Belle.
yeah, but you're not going to unpack the.
They don't ever unpack why, who this person is. They skip that generation. Yep.
But Mrs. Claus named the child after Scrooge's ex-fiancée, who he was cheating on with Mrs. Claus. So unpack that if you want. They don't. But they acknowledge that they don't, but they certainly do not. So there was a daughter named Belle who Scrooge knew nothing about, was kept secret from Santa. And then apparently Belle has gone missing. They never really do revisit that, but has left behind a new nameless grandchild, another daughter.
Yep.
And Bunny has shown up to give Scrooge his granddaughter that he never knew about. It's your problem now, you have to take care of her, and maybe that'll teach you something about the true meaning of Christmas or whatever. That's all set up. And then we still go through the actual plot of A Christmas Carol, but now he has this baby. And speaking of the baby, this is no ordinary baby. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I can take
Okay,
the reins here.
Sorry, please do.
So the baby is one of those like demon zombie babies that you get at like Spirit Halloween stores. So like the baby has no eyes. The eyes are gouged right out. And there is a really funny moment that Jamie takes to mention that. The appearance of the baby, we'll get to that in a second. That's at the end. But this baby is shown to us. It is zombie-esque coloring. So it's like a pale green. There's some like scarring. There's
cracks
no
all
eyes,
over its face.
cracks all over. And there's a cardboard halo that's like nailed to it.
Stapled, I think they said.
And then it speaks. You like squeeze it and it's like, "I love you," or like very demonic music playing. So this baby like speaks throughout the show too.
Again, in
And
the
all of
version
the
we saw, you will
characters-
probably see a version with none of this baby.
Yeah, but all of the characters make note of it. Like, wow, she's so loud, or like she's really making sound. It just was a really funny like auditory element. And then at the end, it's just a really amazing turn of events. So Fezziwig comes out, Santa, i.e. Santa, sort of like forgives and explains why the baby looks the way it does. And says because it's been in limbo. And then Lisa does an amazing thing. Like,
It's neither on the naughty or the nice list.
Personal purgatory, neither on the naughty or the nice list. So Santa decides to make it right and put the baby on the nice list. And then out runs Paloma with one of the baby dolls that subs in as one of Bob Cratchit's kids. And she's like, magic, 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 magic. And inserts like a healthy looking baby and takes away zombie baby. You can't make this up, folks. This is how.
But they did, is the brilliant thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like like the proficiency of play and improv is at its finest here.
Can I also just say what was really cracking me up as I was trying to describe the baby is the halo. Because like, that kind of it's like, it's never acknowledged or spoken, but it's kind of implies that like, why does a baby have a halo? It seems like this is like the kind of baby prop that you would like steal from a nativity scene to just use in your play.
Well, so that's why I'm also gonna put a little thing on that, is because I think she maybe had it in her back pocket that like this is baby Jesus.
Maybe, yeah.
Like if it didn't go as like, ooh, Scrooge and her have like a history together, I think that came out as like, this is your grandchild, and then it became that. But I think it was clever of Lisa because that also was like demonic baby Jesus. So she could have also played herself as like, I'm just a woman. She's clearly Mrs. Claus, but like a woman bearing you this gift this demonic baby Jesus, and then that would insert into the show. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like maybe I just think it's so funny because it's like the most horrifying baby doll you've ever seen. It obviously doesn't belong in a nativity scene.
No,
Like
but I think that's the funny thing. It's like demonic
that's
Jesus.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
agreeing that this is the funny thing.
Yeah.
I just say like because it's not just an actual prop stolen or borrowed from a real nativity scene. It's a deliberate choice to put the halo on it. It's
Yeah.
not like this is what this baby doll happened to just look like, because that would never exist in a nativity scene because it's the most horrifying thing ever.
Yeah.
I think like you can sort of see the decisions that had to be made to like, yep, this is what we're dealing with. Unless of course it was like, no, but this doesn't make sense because of the voice box. But but if this was actually like a baby Jesus doll that they like mucked up to look satanic, like ripped out its eyes and cracked its
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it could stand in as that. Like in a lot of nativity like scenes and iterations too do have like the tiny baby halo around Jesus's head.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I'm
like
saying.
that's I just think especially yeah, like the fact that that could have been the way that the plot went is hilarious.
I just think there's a funny backstory for
grandchild of
this
Scrooge.
prop that we don't get any kind of access to, and that's just maybe.
Well, and it's funny because right off the hop too, like it's the grandchild of Scrooge, and we know Scrooge to be like a terrible human being. And I laughed because I was like, oh my gosh, like this is his lineage, like his disgust and his hatred and whatever, like shows up in his DNA. Like,
No, I didn't even think of that. That's funny.
oh.
Yeah.
So Lisa playing Bunny Claus definitely shook up what they had planned. And that's exactly what this show is supposed to do. I'm going to definitely investigate the past productions that you just talked about with Colin. And because I think, again, every one of these iterations are going to be so different.
If you just go on the Knifefight Instagram account, they've been doing a good job of not with videos, just like photos and like detailed captions documenting what the invaders have brought to each performance. Maybe we'll link that in this episode description.
My question before we start talking about, because I do want to talk about the structure itself, and like you said, like Jamie directed this and played Scrooge, and there definitely are wonderful like tether points of the story to kind of keep this show going, and it is a 2-act show with an intermission, so it really did a great job of like not only do you feel like you're watching improv or even sometimes like stand-up comedy vibes, you are getting like a beginning, middle, end of a version of the Christmas Carol. So I want to talk about that in a moment, but just briefly with the whole like invading concept, I would be curious to ask the team or to find out, and maybe Jamie let us know, does the invader have the agency to sort of stroll in when they want? Because there was a moment where we were in the Ghost of the Future moment, and she was doing a sort of eulogy at Scrooge's grave, and then ends up sort of asking our musician who underscored the whole bit, by the way, this is Dewey Minden, which was
Great
super
job.
lovely. Provided like the eerie soundscape, provided, you know, Christmas jingles along the way, definitely improv on the keys. So hats off to Dewey. But Lisa actually turned back. She's like, this is where I have to leave now, right? So I'm curious, like, if the invaders have the agency to sort of enter when they want and kind of leave when they want. And that alone continuously adds an element of surprise.
I have thoughts about this, and I don't know the answer, but like I think this isn't to question the veracity of the improvisational nature of it, what I'm about to say. But I have a very hard time believing that the cast has absolutely no idea when and how and what the invader is going to bring to it, just because Assembly Theatre is a very small space with a very small backstage area. So they can at least see, like, in the lead up to the show, they're like, oh, she's dressed as Mrs. Claus. And like maybe they even start like cycling through their heads. And with stuff like what you're sort of bringing up here and the structure of it, I feel like there are probably specific moments where the invader is expected to make an appearance. And I would imagine that if I was, say, directing a show like this, and I'm inviting all of these comedy people to be these guest invaders, obviously don't tell them what they should do, or don't even like necessarily like ask them, what are you going to do? But I would sort of give them the script with kind of like X areas of like, in here is where maybe you'll come in this scene. And then, because it did feel like there were a lot of uninterrupted scenes, especially early on, that are just like, yep, that's a Christmas Carol.
Right.
And it felt like there was a pretty good consistent rhythm of when the invader came in and out and things resumed, and in a lot of the stuff they had to like treat the subsequent scenes with new stimulus that the invader provided, regardless of whether or not the invader was there, but kind of still sticking to their script in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
just the fact that like Jamie was always holding the baby during all of these Ghost of
Yeah.
Christmas scenes, and he played very well with any time that like childhood or something was mentioned, he looked down, and that line now has a new meaning because he's holding this child. But I do feel like there must be some kind of, not necessarily pre-scripting, but preparatory game plan-y element
Yeah.
with the invader. Because like that eulogy, for example, feels like a moment where there was the pause for her to enter and she knew she was giving a eulogy. Now, like that could just be like, yes, I know that in A Christmas Carol and The Ghost of Christmas Yet to Be, we have a very long sequence of Scrooge not realizing that the grave he's looking at is his own because he's a big dumb dummy. But yeah, like there are things that I feel like could have been, if not discussed among the team, sort of like talked about, like, yep, this is a moment where maybe you'll come in. But I also think that this is fluid enough that there's freedom to break out of that,
Yeah.
and that the cast is very adept at rolling with it if a moment when they thought the invader would come doesn't happen because she came earlier or later, or if they just have to keep rolling. But I think there's also like clear gaps in the script where like and now invade. That's my hunch from watching it.
Sure. Yeah. Again, I'd love to pick the year and see how that whole process goes, because that's doing a show like this. Obviously, you're basically doing like two shows in one. Like you're doing an improv show. You're wanting to make sure that that really hits the mark, but then also you are setting it up baked inside a Christmas classic. So like also making sure that people are kind of getting, I mean, the beauty is like everyone has been exposed to A Christmas Carol in some shape or form. So even if it was mostly outlandish and just a nod to the Dickens tale, that alone would be amazing.
Well, I'm also just thinking like now with this sort of like this small backstage space in a venue like Assembly Theatre, I feel like there could be backstage conversations like once the show has started where somebody's like, oh, I have an idea, Bunny, when you go into the next scene, do this. And then like that could tee up, I don't know if that sort of like, if that's something that they would like vehemently oppose because it like cheapens the improvisational nature.
Yeah, and I feel like it leaves it up to more fun when they don't do that.
But. Yeah, but I just think like, for example, like when Paloma comes in with the good baby at the end of Swap Out, like that, sure, that could just be something that like she's just following her instincts from backstage in that moment realized she could do, or it could be something that somewhere along the line the team realized that like, okay, I think I know where this plot can go and this would be really funny.
Me, I would not be surprised if it was Paloma and Tim Blair, who plays Santa Fezziwig, in the back conspired, because it's him that comes in and says like, the naughty and nice thing, and then I bet you they were like, switch the baby, and like boom.
And I would be perfectly okay with that being the case, regardless of whether or not it is, because part of what I admire so much about this show is just how tightly it comes together. That it's not just chaos for chaos sake, throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what happens. There is a lot of that, and it is certainly chaotic. But like, if somebody had just like written down this version, like a lone playwright wrote a parody version of A Christmas Carol where Mrs. Claus shows up and has a romantic past with Scrooge, and this feels like the logical place where that plot would have gone from the mind of a single playwright. Like it is so dramatically coherent and meaningful, like how it all plays out, that of like, damn, it's so impressive that it is improv, but I wouldn't blame it if like they created some moments behind the scenes to let it come to that meaningful payoff, because that just makes it even better in my opinion.
Yeah, totally. Okay, speaking of even better, I want to again just talk about, so let's not insert the invader and just talk about the setup of this piece. So like I said, or like we said, Jamie Kavanaugh helms is Scrooge, and also has helmed the sort of blueprint that we got going on here. All of our characters pretty well double up. I think like obviously Jamie just plays Scrooge, but we have a smattering of other characters played by the rest of the ensemble. So we've got Tim Blair, Lucy Hill, Liz Johnston, Richard Lamb, and Paloma Nunez. They are our core team, and they span several characters donning different costumes, different vibes, different, I'm just thinking of Paloma because I think like Paloma's
so
whole
funny.
track through all of this, and I would just be curious if it's because like her and Lisa definitely have like personal fun vibes in history, but like Paloma's whole track kind of like as an overlying thing was like kind of the forgotten friend or like the forgotten one or the weird kid, and just like constantly she kind of brought that energy into every character she played. So she plays Dick, who's like one of Scrooge's old friends, who's like that guy at a party that's like, bro, like why aren't you paying attention to me?
Yeah.
And just like
he's jealous that Scrooge has a crush on Bunny and that they're spending so much time together. You should be hanging out with me.
So it's just one of the like a very like heavy baggage friend that you're like, oh my god, Dick, like just chill out. And then so I was already vibing with all of Paloma's choices, and then I gotta say I think my all-time favorite character was Peter, which is the eldest Cratchit boy. Just again, Paloma comes in with an energy of like this like pick me energy, this like mama's boy, like just the little kid who like says very like not socially appropriate things, and everyone's like, oh, Peter, and just you had to be there to get the full experience. But I just thought it was so clever, the sort of umbrella statement that Paloma brought in. At least this night's energy was like very like pick me, like I'm an outsider weird person. So that was just like brilliant. But again, all these actors play various roles. Also like Liz Johnston has so many swivels and switches and turns. I want to say too, like Liz and Richard, especially in the show that we saw. So to me, like when you're doing a prolonged improv show like this, there has to kind of be like a dance between all the actors. Like
literally
LOL, there was that.
Choreographed by Lucy Hill.
Yes, Lucy. Tipping the hat to that amazing sort of flash mob.
Maybe we'll come back to that, but finish your thought.
But in like an improv show that's prolonged like this, like you kind of have to, and I don't necessarily think it has to be the same people all the time, but you have to kind of have the folks that have like the thinking caps on, and then the folks that have the pop of punch of comedy. So like what I mean by that is I think in what we saw, like to me, Liz and Richard in all of their tracks, they were very good at like keeping some sort of like dialogue that is to the plot line or to the story or to the characters at hand. They were kind of like mother henning or like fathering the scenes sometimes in like a bringing like juicy text or like new ideas to the scene. And then a lot of the other actors were sort of yes-anding and again adding that pop of comedy. That's the kind of flair and flavor I got from it. Kind of seemed like not to say like Liz and Richard were only driving the scenes, but just like I think you kind of need that sort of combo, right? In like certain scenes, like volleying back and forth, like who's setting us up and who's actually hitting it home. Again, you had Liz playing like Fred, which Scrooge's nephew, but also playing Bob's wife, Mrs. Cratchit. What's her actual name in the story?
Does she have one? Mrs. Cratchit's fine.
Bob's wife.
Bob's your wife.
But yeah, and then just the Mrs. Dilworth, the housekeeper of Scrooge, like just such like varying characters, but just like really, really an anchor in all the scenes.
And of course, the Ghost of Christmas Past.
And the Ghost of Christmas Past, yes, touch my robe. Anyway, so I kind of segued us a little bit into cast shoutouts. I talked a bit about Paloma and Liz. Do you want to use
like honestly the cast is like all of them are just so good. Yeah. I do think something I noticed about Lucy's performance, she played a whole variety of characters, including all of Puppet the fannies. And Puppet Tiny Tim is so funny because she had like this little kind of like beard mask, I guess, that sort of like straps onto her like full-sized adult face, and with Tiny Tim's little body with his crutch, and like was like very cognizant of like somebody always needs to be like holding him up because his feet don't reach the ground, and so that was really fun. I just feel like this feels kind of like an understated moment in like not even moment, but just like an aspect of Lucy's performance is that I feel like of everyone in the cast, she maybe had the best grasp of the Victoriana of it all.
Totally. I 1000%.
Like an improving Victoriana. Like she just like spot on every single moment with all of her characters. like Martha, one of the Cratchit children, for example, there's the recurring bit of like every time Bob's coming home, she hides behind the curtain, and then Paloma has the really funny thing as Peter is like, oh yeah, she's run away and she's got a great big belly, great with child, and then like it's just going way too far, like what was supposed to be a harmless prank. But then Lucy comes back in and is like, oh no, that's I'm here and perfectly chaste, father, and like it's she just kind of like grasped
it's so funny. Sorry, the third time that happened, how Jamie just deflates the shit out of it.
She's behind
Get
the
out
curtain.
Behind the curtain, and then she's like, what?
Yeah, like it's so fun. But like I just find like her grasp of like the Victorian decorum while still saying hilarious improvisational stuff. She did this as like both versions of Fanny, the one that is Scrooge's sister, who's Fred's mother, and then Fred's fiance, also Fanny. Don't unpack that.
And then the baby ends up being Fan too.
Yeah, so, but like, yeah, I really do want to like shout out the work because it feels understated compared to like so much of like the big bombastic hilarious stuff that everyone's doing.
Yeah.
But like, even if this wasn't a comedy version, if it was just like okay, we all know Christmas Carol, let's improv our way through Christmas Carol, she would like be nailing all of this in just like her the way she does that. I think you mentioned Richard too, and I think he's another one who like really just like kind of gets it. And I forget the exact phrase you used, but something about like the kind of thinkers versus the doers or something. But like he's clearly a thinker, like in the way he performs, and like there's always like a bit of like a highbrow element to like all of his suggestions and improv and things he's adding to every scenes. He spent a lot of time at the Shaw Festival, so I think that kind of like infuses a lot of like how he maybe perhaps approaches this work, especially in like a Victorian context. We haven't talked much about Tim Blair, but he's so fun. And again, I just think
kills me every time.
And like I wonder, again, this is where I just want to like get behind the sort of like brains and like how much premeditation is there in any of this. But like he just showed up as Fezziwig and started doing like a ho-ho sounding laugh. And then that just clicked into place like, okay, right, this is where we are, Santa's workshop, I guess. And like that could have been so rife with possibilities of like, okay, so young Scrooge and Bunny are here. Is she going to later marry Santa? Are they already married? Is that and like I felt like Tim was really in the driver's seat in a lot of those scenes of just like he's like, okay, I got this. I know what the funniest possible version of this is, so I'm just gonna shoot out lines of dialogue that are gonna establish hard facts about the backstory here. And so I thought, and of course he also played the Ghost of Christmas Present, and he just had that funny vibe with a more Santa appropriate looking outfit than
I think you're so I just want to add, like you just said the thing like of Tim does a really good job of adding great backstory. I think again, when I was talking about the sort of dance and sort of roles that a large company doing this prolonged improv kind of have to endow, I feel like he talked about backstory, provided that like very calm, sort of laid back improviser, which adds a wonderful pop to, again, like you said, there's bombastic choices happening. There's, different spikes of agency and high status and low status. Great. We need that. But we also do need that sort of calm, chill actor that just like comes in and says what it is. And this is where we're going. And I was like, Tim did that for this iteration.
Yeah. I also, while we're in the spirit of the cast, the cast, I know we've talked a lot about Jamie already, but I think he deserves like a special shout out segment. Jamie Kavanagh is just one of, I think, the most gifted young actors we have in Toronto right now. And like I've seen him in a whole bunch of things in comedy context and drama, but earlier this year, seeing him in Measure for Measure, the House and Body production in collaboration with Crows, I had never seen him do Shakespeare before. And that production in particular, which is like in, I think, my definitely top 10, maybe even top 5. I haven't done the final ranking of my list, but like one of the best theater productions I've seen all year.
1,000%.
In a whole cast of standouts, I think he stood out above all in that. And just with the radio play premise that they were doing in that production of like everybody doing multiple characters, and you have your like present day radio studio character and then all of your Shakespeare characters. And he played the Prince in Measure for Measure, or it was the Prince or the King, or I don't know. That's never been one of my favorite Shakespeares. And the fact that I love that production so much says a lot. His mastery of the just early modern text in that, I see traces of that in how he handled Scrooge here, which is like wild because it's like a completely different type of character in a different period. And to be doing that paired with some of the funniest improv you'll ever see. And just like, so to be able to be that locked into this character,
Yeah.
this is very like heightened, iconic character that we've seen a million different actors play in a million different ways, to like make a version of it that is entirely his own.
Yeah.
And then be able to break it open, explode it with just such funny, responsive, and again, deeply meaningful improvisations. The way he handled that baby makes Scrooge a more interesting character than he's ever been before.
Yep.
Like, wild.
Yeah.
Get this man like a million Doras already. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
He also has just like an old timiness to his acting. Having seen him outside of like heightened text or like playing older, there is like a handful of folks that like just transcend sort of like age when it comes to being the vessel for characters. And like, I think he did a really good job of paying homage to like the standard like Scrooge humbug facial gesture, the posture, the kind of like scruffily beard. Like there definitely were the traditional pops, but then the Jamie-ness underneath. And then again with sort of him instantly having to go into like pseudo granddad mode, we got like a level of, there has to be sort of like a docileness kind of peppered into Scrooge. And then I think just, having that motored by who we know Jamie to be. I just love when you can kind of like see the actor's self crack through, especially like iconic characters like Scrooge or like a Shakespeare role where you can kind of just fall into the humdrum or humbug of it all. But you're right, that is what makes it Jamie's performance. And I agree. Let's get this man a Dora. So we talked about the doubling up, we talked about the blueprint, we talked about the invader, we talked about the music. We didn't really talk about the space itself, but this is again happening at the Assembly Theatre. It is the small little black box, sort of like, it's almost like to me it always seems like a showcase stage. Like it's definitely not huge. It's intimate, but what's kind of cool is I think again the use of, there's like side shelving, so some props were like there so that the actors could kind of like, I think one time
the mandolin.
grabs a mandolin. Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the space is small, but the way that the actors sort of navigate, the entrances and exits and making the curtains like fake doors with keys. And again, I just think the space is so quaint and like your classic, just like basement rustic pop-up shop theater, and I just am constantly amazed by the pop of magic that actors can make that space come alive. So anything else we want to add, or do we want to allow?
We did allude to the dance, so I feel like we should talk.
Oh yes, let's talk about more of the musicality of it. So again, just to kind of segue us and pick up a loose thread as well. So we talked about Dewey Minden was our music director, who was constantly on the keyboard upstage right, creating that eerie soundscape. She had a saw and a bow, so there really was that like
during the ghost moments.
It's a really good saw sound.
Yeah, do it again.
Wow. Okay.
Spooky.
Putting that on my special scales. The merriment, the transition music, it was just really good to kind of have that soundscape. Alongside soundscape and musicality and dance, there is a dance number and a song paired with it, Wassail Away.
Yes. So to be clear, because that sounds like a nonsense statement, it's Come Sail Away by Styx, but made Wassail Away. Okay, I'm going to level with you. Is this a reference to something I don't get?
No, I wanted to ask. Is it just because it's like, maybe it's like they don't have the rights, so they changed it?
I don't know. Okay.
But they were really punching the Wassail Away.
Yeah. I actually, when I got home from the show, I pulled up Project Gutenberg text of A Christmas Carol to like Control F search for Wassail. Like, is this like a Christmas Carol thing that I'm forgetting is like important to the story? And it's not in there. So like they never mentioned Wassail. Like that's like a drink, right? Like I'm not an alcohol guy. I don't know. What is that?
Let's just double check.
I'm like,
okay, yes. Wassail is a traditional hot mulled alcoholic beverage. Yes, during the Christmas season.
Yeah.
And an ancient English Yuletide practice of drinking and singing to wish good health. So there we go. That's exactly
but like it's not like that's something that's referenced in A Christmas Carol as far as I could find.
Right.
So like it just felt like such like the way they were really like punching the
Do you know They should have, in that drinking moment,
Mhm.
because I'm not going to lie, we had to look this up. Maybe a way to kind of guide the audience is in that sort of like drinking merriment scene that is the prelude to the dance. Someone should punch like, this wonderful tasting wassail, this hot mulled beverage is so delicious.
Yeah, it's
like
funny
just
improv.
to get us in on it. Because yeah, that's exactly what they were referring to. But I had
But
to look it up.
and that's the thing, like it really felt like it was an in-joke that were expecting the audience to get. And like maybe there is like another layer to it that like just our simple control F search into the text of A Christmas Carol or Google search for wassail, like maybe there's a pretty famous adaptation of A Christmas Carol that makes a
But like,
wassail joke.
I've seen
I don't
enough
know.
iterations. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I would have known. Oh, they're referencing the wassail.
I just say
part,
like the
you
fact
know?
that we haven't found the reference doesn't mean one doesn't.
Fair. But someone would have to be like, a Christmas Carol like aficionado to be like,
Yeah.
my goodness, they're referencing the wassail.
Like it's funny, like yeah,
It is,
like
it is.
it was a good moment, but I felt watching it like I think I'm missing something important, and because like it is the only very rehearsed part of this that doesn't come from A Christmas Carol itself. That like it is
Yeah.
just like, oh, we have this musical interlude with a well choreographed dance, and also like Bunny was on stage during that moment. She
Yeah.
participated in it, and I could tell that she wasn't as fluid in her choreography as the rest of them.
She was doing her darndest.
Well, but that's kind of the thing. Like, I don't imagine she came to like a dance call to rehearse.
No, absolutely not.
So like she did a pretty damn good job following the steps.
Yeah.
But obviously wasn't like, and that's I would be puzzled if she was like pitch perfect good at the dancing, because I'm like,
no. There's
you've
no
been
way
to
she
a
was,
rehearsal.
but she was like trying to mouth the words. Yeah, that's yes-ending dance and song. That's a whole nother level of improvisation.
Such like a weird, big, funny thing that kind of. Okay, we talked about this in one of our Fringe reviews a while ago of the show Mail Ordered. I don't think you were on. That was the year.
I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, it was a love that show. Like some very memorable Fringe experience, and that show had like audience participation that doesn't get revealed until the end. That there are two important plants in the audience who and like excellently naturalistic actors that like they sold the fact that you didn't realize that they were plants until the very end. But then at the very end, they did an awesome choreographed dance number with the people who we thought were actual legitimate audience participants, and that gave up the game of like, haha, they're part of the show. Yeah. That if Bunny had been as good at the dance as the rest of them, I'd be like, I question the improvisationalness. So I love that she wasn't, but gosh, did she get pretty close just following their steps.
Yeah, so good. I just kind of, again, with going back to the wassail thing, I just instantly was like, oh my gosh, they probably couldn't get the rights or whatever, so they're changing it up. It is hilarious. Now we're looking up what that is, like that.
Like, why Come Sail Away? Like, I feel like the reference to Wassail came first, because like, what a random song to put in your Christmas Carol show otherwise.
But it's perfect. Like, it's just such a perfect like absurdity. Like, what the actual F is happening, and here we are.
Yeah, and also the dance that Lucy herself choreographed, just so fun, so festive, so cheery. Yeah.
And how they segued into it. Again, this is where we go back to like the thinker and the picker-upper. Liz set us up fluidly into that. But it came from them playing a game of truth or dare.
Yeah, like Fred's Christmas party.
Also comes in. Yeah, so they do like an improvised thing of truth or dare that Bunny asks, like Lisa provided that. So Bunny teased them up to play truth or dare. There's clearly in that scene, Lucy has to get us to that song and dance. So I actually think potentially what happened there when the character of Fanny was like, I want my turn. This is no fair. Like, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't be surprised if she was like, we got to keep this thing clicking along and I got to get my song and dance in these actors' bodies. So the way she kind of like took center stage and made Fanny feel like a bit like left out, like give it to me. And then Liz jumped on that to ask her to do some sort of mysterious song and dance, just like sing or dance with us. And again, as I'm unpacking this, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a funny tee up to give your improv mate of like sing and dance in this tale that we've just been acting. Like that's a classic offer, right? And is to add some music to the improv skit. But then the fact they go into this fluid song and dance, I'm like, Oh my gosh, that was Lucy and Liz having a moment of like, let's tee this up, let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah.
I just would imagine that that's how that all
That would be a
out.
moment that if I were to see this show again, which I would love to do, don't know if I'll have the time to get around to it, because I would just be so fun to see what the show becomes with each new performer invader, and what that would be a moment that I'd be really like paying attention to like, how do they get us into the dance? Because clearly the dance must happen. Like they put too much work into making this musical number to not I don't think they're open to that not happening. So, but it must be completely different every time how they get us there. So that's really interesting.
And that's super cool too. Yeah. And like you said, if you don't get the option to see it again a second time this season, hopefully it does become one of Toronto's comedy staples here at the holiday season.
Something I'll even add to that is, I don't think we mentioned this at the outset, but the Dad's Garage company that you said sort of developed this concept, that's an Atlanta-based, I believe, comedy theater. So, and I think that's kind of interesting because like they haven't like, yes, they mention Dad's Garage just like in the kind of like little program here. And, but I feel like there hasn't been like a lot of talk sort of, or in the marketing about how like this is a thing that exists in the States and we're bringing it to Canada, because like the premise itself is just like so fluid and malleable and improvisational that yes, they're giving credit where it's due to where this idea originated, but you can do this anywhere. It has a real guerrilla theater vibe to it that like, I think they're probably, especially giving credit where it's due to whoever did the adaptation of the text, that's very faithful, but has the openness towards this kind of penetration from the invader, is, crucial to use that kind of script. But like anybody could make a show. Like this is just so, it's really, it's so good. I do look forward to, if I don't get to see it again this year, definitely coming back next year, because this feels like a tradition worth celebrating.
Holiday hilarity, one might say.
And one thing I'll even add to that, I don't know if I ever want to see a straight Christmas Carol again. After seeing this, I feel like I would be so bored. No matter how well done and well performed a normal version, I'm just gonna be like, okay, but when's the improv comedian gonna come in and make it fun? Like, I know you're actually, the next episode I believe we're releasing after this is you. I'm not gonna be on this episode, but you will be seeing what I believe is a straightforward version of Christmas Carol. And I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on like if there's any going back after you've seen something like this, because it's such a a well-worn, tired story that's like great for all the reasons it's great, and it deserves its place in the canon, the centrality, the seasonalness of it's all. But I think we're all kind of bored with it a little bit, you know.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, indulge in holiday hilarity, because I actually you're pressing upon a vein there, because I was gonna say like there is the Christmas. There's a Christmas Carol. There's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. There's capital T tradition at the holiday season, but like it's boring. Like it's like let me watch one version, and then I'm like, okay, I want to shake stuff up. So I think like this provides you with, you're still indulging the tradition, but like you are falling off the chair cackling.
And I think there's a reason why so many people, certainly in our generation, hold the Muppet version as like the high S tier Christmas Carol adaptation one, because it is lovingly faithful to the original, and Michael Caine sells the hell out of that performance, acting opposite all these Muppets. Yeah. But the fact that they are Muppets elevates it to, okay, it's not just, the regular run-of-the-mill, there's something fun here. But then when you watch that enough times, especially if you're the kind of person or family who watch that year after year, even that can get kind of stale. Totally. This show, Invasion Christmas Carol, by design cannot get stale. Never. Because every single invader will make it their own, make it unique. If there's ever something that you will want to make an annual tradition to come back year after year, and not like there's, I guess I don't want to be dismissive to the comfort of seeing something, the same thing over and over again, making a ritual out of that. Yeah. But I don't know. And maybe I'm just speaking as somebody who didn't grow up with Christmas. I grew up in a Jewish household and we didn't celebrate Christmas. So I don't have necessarily that nostalgia or fondness for the ritual, watching Ralphie shoot his eye out with the BB gun every year or whatever. But this is my jam. Something I've been noticing over like across many of the shows I've seen this year, many episodes we've done on the Cup, is I'm craving difference and variability. I'm craving shows that engage with what the live medium of theater really has to offer. As much as I love a play like Doubt for example. I've seen Doubt enough times that that show just doesn't do much for me anymore, as we discussed in a recent episode reviewing Doubt. But if Lisa Merchant showed up halfway through Doubt as Sister Bunny and started giving Sister Aloysius a run for her money, I think I'd enjoy Doubt a lot more.
Woof. Yeah. That's a clever thing to bring up. And I think you are seeing a lot of companies and actors, even in new works, like trying to push some sort of boundary, like to smudge some sort of, like you said, what is the live medium of theater? And I think it's interesting. This is wild that this is one of our final episodes of the year. So I feel like this is a cool,
this is my final episode of the year. You're still doing 2 more after this.
Yeah. But like, as we sort of round out another year of the Cup, we're far enough out of pandemic shutdown vibes now. Like, we're back to like quote unquote normal. But I think we're actually seeing now the benefits of what a maybe like trudging forward towards what potentially a new normal could be. And I think we're seeing that in shakeup of genres, in shakeup of old tales. There's a little bit like a footloose, fancy free approach to art again. I feel like coming out of COVID, we were a little bit like, okay, let's just get stuff back on a stage. Like, let's just put a story up. Let's just, in a good way, because we needed that. But I would love to see 2026 continue along this path of like, okay, we're back. And we're back, and we're gonna literally invade the stage with something fresh and new. We need new stories, and we also need new stories about the old stories, right? Like, I think that's like a cool offering for 2026. Kind of keep us going.
And what better than one that takes an old story, one of the classic old stories, and not just makes it new, but makes it new again and again and again, newer every night.
Correct. All right. So I think that's a wonderful sort of stopping point for us here. So again, this is Invasion Christmas Carol, Toronto's new holiday comedy tradition, produced by Knifefight Theatre, presented by One for One Collective and Assembly Theatre in association with Knifefight. Again, directed by Jamie. Stunning cast, wonderful improvisers, guest appearing. You have a couple more days of 2025 to see this show upon release of the episode. But like we said, hopefully it returns again and again and again. And we just constantly get new invaders and new flares on the traditional tale. On that note, Ryan, where can friends find you on the socials?
Yeah, not active on the socials. So if you like me and my theater thoughts, a lot of them can be found here on the Cup. That's at COH Theater on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Cup of Hemlock Theater on YouTube, where you might be watching this. Cup of Hemlock Theater podcast and all the podcast places where you might be listening to this. Also, a lot of my theater thoughts tend to exist at Next Magazine these days. I write a weekly column there now. It's called Theater Scenes, where I have to do the obligatory task of saying, here's what's opening this week, here's what's closing, here's what you can see, and then once that's out of the way, I have freedom to talk about basically whatever I want, and sometimes it gets weird, so follow my theater thoughts there.
Nice.
How about you, Jill? Where can people find and follow you?
Yeah, they can find and follow me on my artist Instagram account, Jillian.Robinson96. I've mentioned this on previous episodes, and I will continually mention it. I have left my day job. I am in full arts educator mode, which I'm super excited to blast off into the new year. Teaching some after-school programs for kiddos. I've got some projects of my own kind of cooking and on the go. And I will be doing a sort of like, I don't want to necessarily say Victorian, but like a modern woman kind of photo shoot-y thing in Scarborough upcoming. So you will see that on my page. Yeah, just kind of doing a smattering of art-related things. I love the Cup because that has been a consistency through all of my journey of 2025. And yeah, it's a wonderful platform where we get to share our thoughts. We get to share in the hilarity that is definitely donning our stages. We've been rounding out the year with so many great pieces. I mean, I feel like this whole year has been a wonderful year for theater, but past episodes as of late have really been hitting stuff home. So get out and continually support the arts that are here in the city and in and around the country, which Brian alluded to. There'll be another episode coming up that's happening in King City.
Still in the province.
Correct.
Yes.
But yeah, we love to expand where we can. Expand our thoughts, expand our community.
All over the map, as our mandate says.
Everyone.
Wassail.
I will take my cup. Maybe we'll do 2 here. And we'll do many cheers, many merriment. Treat yourself over the holiday season, folks. Stay in community with others. Stay with us here at the Cup. We've got wonderful things upcoming. And we will see you next time on our next episode of the Cup.